Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah, and I'm coming to you with another Lithia lesson. I hope you're all doing well, and today's topic is going to be on ecosystems and what makes up an ecosystem. Some of you might not know what an ecosystem is. So an ecosystem is made up of all living and non-living things in an area, which includes the plants, animals, and other living things that make up just like the communities of life in that specific area. An ecosystem also includes non-living materials, which is like water, soil, rocks, and sand. So living and non-living things that make up an ecosystem are plants, animals, bacteria that are under like the soil, water, light, soil, and temperature. And those all make up an ecosystem and allow it to function. So ecosystems are also made up of carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, decomposers, and scavengers. And some of you probably know what those are, but I'm just going to go over them. Carnivores eat meat, so those animals are like lions or cheetahs or mountain lions that live in this area. Herbivores just eat plants, so that's like the deer or the zebra in the savannah. Omnivores eat plants and animals, so those examples of those are bears, raccoons, or chipmunks, and I did not know chipmunks were omnivores. And decomposers break down organisms, so those are like bacteria or fungus, stuff like that like decompose and break down materials that are in the soil usually. And scavengers are turkey vultures or hyenas, and they eat things that are already dead. Like they don't kill their prey, they just eat it when it's already dead. And those animals could also be animals like wolves or mountain lions if they come across a carcass, and they can eat that. So throughout an ecosystem, the circle of life definitely plays a role in how animals survive or don't survive. And I think it's really interesting how it all balances out in an ecosystem. And like we were talking about in Joe Allen's class before, when we did that lesson on mountain lions, deer, and like trees, if too many deer are eaten or gone, or there's not enough, then the mountain lion won't be able to find enough food, so they'll have to go farther and farther to find enough food. Or if there's not enough water for an animal, they'll also have to travel farther, and sometimes, sadly, they might not survive if they don't have enough food or nutrients or water to survive in that ecosystem. But that is just the circle of life, and it happens every day. Other various components that make up an ecosystem are its ecological levels. And the ecosystem is broken up into 4 levels, which are individuals, population, community, and ecosystem. An individual, which is on the bottom, that is one organism or one type of animal. For example, a clownfish. So one singular clownfish would be considered an individual because it's just one. A population is a group of individuals that are in the same species. So continuing with our clownfish example, that would just be like 4 clownfish, for an example, would be considered a population because they're the same type of animal, the clownfish, but there's just a few more of them, which is why they're a population and not an individual. And communities are made up of all the populations of different species in an area, and these species can interact with one another. So going off of our ocean example, you could have clownfish, you could have angelfish, you could have other species of fish like clownfish. Oh, I already said that. But communities, they interact with one another. And for a population, they are in the same space as well. So all of these things are in the same space with the community too. So in an ecosystem as a whole, you aren't just looking at the different populations of different species, but you're also looking at the physical environment, which means like the landscape around them, what type of things are there, like what type of rocks are there, what type of plants are there. If you're not in the ocean, what type of soil it is, is there different plants, different types of trees, that kind of stuff. So an ecosystem is the physical environment as well as the community and populations of fish and other species too. So the landscape can be different depending on how an ecosystem is. So there are things called biomes, which are different landscapes. And for an example, a savanna where in Africa or a rainforest in the Amazon are considered biomes. So this is an example of the 4 levels that make up the ecosystem. That's the ecological levels. So the individual, as I was saying, is just the 1 clownfish. And then the population is the 4 clownfish. And then the community, you see 3 different species of fish: clownfish, angelfish, and that type of fish. I'm not sure what that is, but that's a community because they're all interacting with one another. And then the ecosystem, you see there's sea turtles, fish, starfish, kelp, other different types of ocean plants. So that's what makes up an ecosystem. So you guys just learned so much about ecosystems and all the different types of species, or carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, decomposers, and scavengers, and the 4 different ecological levels of an ecosystem, which is so cool that there's so many different parts of an ecosystem that make it up and allow these animals to thrive. Ecosystems are so important because they provide habitat to plants and animals and support food chains and food webs, which is like I was talking about with the deer and the mountain lion example. And it also gives us humans clean air from trees and food and water. So we also really rely on ecosystems, which is why it's important to respect them and take care of them. Well, I hope you enjoyed my Lithia lesson for today, and I hope you're all doing well, and I miss you all. Have a good day.